Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for coming back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the new visa update, COS, and everything that's been happening in between. It's been a while, and I promise to update you guys once everything is being settled. So I don't want to make this video unnecessarily long. This is just to answer some few questions that people have been asking me, about visa COS and all that's been happening about tier 2 sponsorship. So stick around and watch this video right onto the end. If you're coming across my channel and my face for the very first time, hi, my name is Becca. I'm an immigrant nurse. I'm from Ghana in West Africa. I practice and live and I work in the United Kingdom. So I did a visa application. I think on this channel I shared that the Home Office contacted my employer. It was back and forth and all that. It took me 6 weeks to have a decision on my visa application. This is the longest time that I have had to wait for a visa application decision. Even though I paid for standard anyways, I didn't pay for express. But anytime I've paid for standard, I still get it within 7-14 days maximum. But this time around, it took 6 weeks to get a decision. Now things are changing. The Home Office is making a lot of inquiries and asking for a lot of supporting documents from your employer. And so whilst all of these was going on, things happened in between. I called the Home Office. I use that as an opportunity to ask some questions, and I will be answering that question. So for those of you who are asking about your COS, that your COS has delayed, what is causing the delay, what is happening in the background, and all the yada yada. COS most of the times doesn't delay if your employer has met all the necessary requirements, that is fulfilling that they are CQC regulated. You know that now as part of the requirement, your employer needs to be CQC regulated. So if your employer is able to prove that they are CQC regulated and they've met all the necessary standards, your COS shouldn't take a long time for it to be released. So if you feel like your COS is taking a bit of a time for it to be released, because people have asked me, Becca, my COS has taken 3 months, 4 months, and all that, the best person you should contact is your employer. They will be the best people to tell you what is happening on the background. You don't need to ask anybody. You can't even ask the Home Office, but your employer will be the best person to tell, because sometimes they're asking, Home Office is asking for additional documents from them, back and forth. So that is what is causing the delay. So you have to ask your employer what is happening. So this is just a clue. Maintain close relationship and close contact with your employer, which is what I did also when I was doing my application. For me, fortunately, my company is a big one, so it wasn't really difficult. Once they were able to clarify that clause on the COS that the Home Office didn't really understand, everything was okay. But it doesn't go like that for everybody. So you need to maintain a very close communication and contact with your employer, because they will be the ones to update you, to tell you what is really happening on the background. About visa decision or visa waiting period, now when you go on the gov.uk website, it says that between 6 to 8 weeks is the visa decision waiting period. And I know that they are working really, really hard to give you a visa within the 6 to 8 weeks, which is what happened in my case. Sometimes it might take a bit of time, because maybe they are asking for additional supporting documents from your employer or from you yourself. Now, what you need to do is that if you make an application on a visa, you need to check your email very, very frequently, because if they're asking for additional supporting documents from you, the applicant, you need to read your email to be able to respond promptly. If it is your employer also, you need to contact your employer. You need to be in constant communication with them to make sure that all the necessary documents that is needed from them is being actually given to the Home Office. Also, when you have contacted your employer, you need to follow up often, especially if it's your employer that is going to release those additional information to the Home Office. You need to ask them, is everything done? Have you sent it? Also, now sometimes as part of the the checks, at first, that when you apply for a tier 2 visa, the Home Office can just give you it. You don't need to go for an interview, but now they can call you for an interview, right? If they are not sure that things are right or things are done the right way, you send supporting documents, but they are still not sure, they want more clarity, they can call you, they can arrange for a video interview to ask you questions about it. So make sure that whatever application you are making, get all your documents intact, right? Where you found the job, remember that. How you went for the interview, the email that you had confirming your interview, email that you have confirming your job offer, the salary, everything, every communication that's gone on back and forth between you and your employer, keep that in place. Keep that, especially if you're coming from overseas. Keep all of these receipts in place. And that is why I encourage people to do things for themselves, because now the trend is changing. Home Office is becoming very, very thorough because of loopholes here and there. They are becoming very, very careful. So you need to make sure that you are doing it by yourself. If somebody is doing it for you, you have evidences of all of the things that is going back and forth. You have it kept somewhere safe so that if you are called, you can produce it. If somebody asked me some time ago that, can you travel whilst your decision, you are waiting for your application decision? No. The answer is no. Same thing happened to me. We wanted to travel, go for holiday, but it couldn't happen at that time because the visa came a week after the holiday was passed, so we couldn't go. So what Home Office told me when I called them is that you should not, they won't force you not to travel, but you can't come back into the UK, because once you leave the borders of the UK, any application that is in process or in progress is being considered as withdrawn. So they cancel that application automatically. So it means you don't have a visa anymore. You can't come back into the UK. So if you've got a visa which is in process, do not leave the UK. Also, let's say that your employer has their license has been revoked and you don't know, and you've traveled back home. It's the same process. You can't come back into the UK. So if you want to travel, especially if you're on a COS, you have to check that the gov.uk, your employer still has a sponsor license actually on the system before you travel. Otherwise, you can't come back into the UK. And if you want to know how to check that, I think I've done a video on that. I'll link it down here below so that you can check. Somebody also asked whether it's compulsory for you to apply for your dependent visa at the same time as yours, and the answer is no. You can apply for your visa and then your dependents can do it at a later time. But what should happen is that your dependents should apply when they are like 3 months closer to the expiration date of the visa that they are currently on. So let's say you're changing employers from one employer to the other, right? You don't necessarily need to change with your whole family. You can change first, then your family can change when the visa that they are currently on has got 3 months to the expiry date. Then they can also change. So you don't necessarily need to do everything together, because sometimes it's money involving and you need to, or you want to wait. And also somebody asked what are the requirements that you need to give when you are renewing a child's visa. Nothing really, because when I was renewing my kids' visa, I just applied, did the application. The only thing I produced was their current BRP, their passport, and their birth certificate to show that I am their mother, the name of it. The relationship is still there. And then they asked whether the kids still live in the same address as me. The answer was yes. So it's just basic questions. If you've already done a successful visa application before, you don't need to resubmit every document all over again, because everything is already in the database. You just need to take your child's birth certificates, their passports, and their BRP, which you can scan and send before you go in for your biometrics. So, and I think people also ask me that if my employer is not getting me shift and I still have a valid BRP, what should I do? The answer is keep working, because you've still got a valid BRP, right? So keep working your 20 hours, and then you can be searching for another job, because once the BRP is still valid, it means that you are still a legal immigrant. You've still got a legal status in the UK. So just keep working your 20 hours additional work, and then you have to, in that process, be looking elsewhere where there is job that you can go, because if it affects your NI or your HMRC, gets to know, they might think that you are working and you're not paying taxes, which sometimes triggers the fact that maybe you are avoiding taxes or you are engaged in tax avoidance, which you want to avoid. So get a new job, but whilst you are looking for that, you can still be doing your 20 hours of additional work with a supplementary employer. And now the good news is that you can do your 20 hours supplementary work with anybody who is still on the shortage occupation, which I have shared on here. You can do additional work with any occupation that is still on the shortage occupation list. You can do any job, so you don't necessarily need to be restricted in your field. So if you're a nurse, you can do any other work, not necessarily a nurse. If you're a carer, you can do any other work, not necessarily a carer, but that job still needs to be on the shortage occupation list, which is some bit of a relief, honestly, because it prevents you from being restricted, but you still need to stick to your 20 hours. And for those of you who are in the NHS and you're asking, I'm in the NHS, what do I do? If you are in the NHS and you are doing bank, right now it is clearly written on gov.uk website that it is considered as a first job. So no matter the number of hours you do, as far as you're still in the NHS, it's considered as a first job. So this is just a brief update that I want to bring to you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, for constantly coming back to the channel. Until we meet again in my next video. Bye-bye.